My first boss told me I was too emotional to lead. It was in a glass-walled meeting room, fluorescent lights buzzing, after I'd dared to disagree with a pitch during a client brainstorm. I'd been working there for 8 months, junior strategist, underpaid, overperforming, staying late while the men left at 5 to hit rooftop happy hours. And I knew my idea was better. More grounded. More relevant. Less shiny, but more real. But he didn't like real. He liked shiny. So after the meeting, he called me in. "You're good," he said. "Smart. We like your hustle." That pause, it was coming. "But you're a little too reactive. A little too intense in the room.
Clients pick up on that.
You're not quite leadership material." I nodded. I smiled. And I went home that night and cried so hard I bit a towel to keep from screaming. That wasn't the first time. And it wouldn't be the last. My next job? A boutique agency that praised collaboration but stole credit like it was currency. I built 3 successful campaigns that put them on the map, only to have my name wiped from the case studies like I was a ghost. You're valuable to the team, but not quite ready for the spotlight. That time I didn't cry. That time I wrote everything down. Who took what?
When? Where? How?
Because one day, I knew I'd need the receipts. I started freelancing on the side.
Nights.
Weekends. Lunch breaks in bathrooms while pretending to be grabbing a salad. I took on small clients no one else wanted: vegan candle brands, sustainable sock startups, indie skincare lines with messy logos and big dreams. And I made the money. Real money. Quietly. Consistently. One client said, "You're the first person who actually listened to what I needed." That lit something. Because I had spent years being told that listening was weakness. That caring made me soft. That questioning made me difficult. But out here? It made me unstoppable. By the time I was 26, I had a full book of clients and a waiting list. I quit my job with a one-line email. "Thank you for showing me exactly what kind of leader I never want to be." I never got a reply. I named my agency Ember Theory, because what they tried to extinguish, my fire was still there, just glowing under the surface. Waiting. I built a team of women who'd been burned the same way. The too much ones. Too loud. Too soft. Too bold. Too honest. Too emotional. We weren't too anything. We were exactly enough. And our work showed it. The agency grew fast. Faster than I expected. Faster than they could copy. We didn't network with the old boys clubs. We didn't beg for a seat at their table. We built our own table. And we were booked solid. Then one day, a pitch deck landed in my inbox. Client, mid-size e-commerce company. Industry, home goods. Previous agency, Pearl Plus Crane. I blinked. Pearl Plus Crane. My first agency. The one where I was too intense. Where they said I wasn't leadership material. They'd lost the account. We were on the short list to replace them. I didn't tell my team. I didn't need to. We pitched like we always do, with clarity, strategy, and edge. Not sparkle. Not fluff. Just work that worked. The client chose us in under 48 hours. A week later, I walked into their old office, not as an intern, not as a junior, not as a hopeful assistant waiting for my shot, but as the founder of the agency that just replaced them. The receptionist recognized me. So did my old boss. He didn't say anything, but he didn't have to, because I wasn't angry. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't even smug. I was free. I didn't even want to walk into the Pearl Plus Crane building. Not really. But the new client insisted on a transition meeting. Standard protocol. Nothing dramatic. I told myself I could handle it. And I did. But when the elevator doors opened and I stepped into the same slick marble lobby where I used to wait 15 minutes early every morning, holding my ideas like fragile offerings, something tightened in my chest. Not fear. Not regret. Just memory. Of who I had to be to survive this place. Of how small I had made myself just to fit. My former boss, Darren, greeted us in the hallway. He hadn't changed much. Slightly more gray. Slightly more performative. He shook my hand like a man who knew how to pretend humility but had never practiced the real thing. Well. Ember Theory. Didn't realize you were on the roster. I smiled. We don't always advertise what we're building. That made his jaw twitch. He led us into a glass conference room, the same one where he told me I wasn't leadership material. Poetic. The client was polite. Professional. They went over their pain points, missed deadlines, unclear messaging, tone-deaf copy, campaigns that didn't convert. Every complaint was a mirror of everything I had once tried to fix and had been ignored for even mentioning. Now, I was here to replace what they never listened to. My strategist leaned forward during the meeting and asked a pointed question. Can you walk us through the segmentation logic you used for their last campaign? The metrics are a little fuzzy. Darren fumbled. I didn't interrupt. I didn't need to. I let the silence do what I was once punished for, speak. After the client left, Darren lingered. We were alone in the room for the first time in years.
He looked at me.
Something flickered. It wasn't remorse. It was recognition. You've done well for yourself. He said it like a compliment, but it tasted like dust. I always knew you had potential. I met his gaze. No, you didn't. But I did. That's the difference. And I walked out. Later that week, I got an email from one of my old coworkers, Sarah. We weren't close, but she was kind to me when I was invisible. *K. Just wanted to say congrats. Word got around fast. You earned this. I left last year. Place was bleeding clients. Darren didn't change. But people noticed that you did. Proud of you. That meant more than the pitch win. Because it meant people saw. The following month, Ember Theory expanded into a second office. Nothing flashy, a sunlit suite with plants and exposed brick. I gave each team member a glass frame with a quote they lived by. Mine read, "Let them underestimate you, then dismantle them calmly." We took on 3 new legacy clients. One of them had passed over my resume 5 years ago. I signed their onboarding papers with a pen that had my name embossed in gold. By now, interviews were rolling in.
Podcasts.
Features. Panels. I was invited to speak at a Women in Business Summit. The panel's topic? Leading with emotion, a strength, not a flaw. I almost laughed when I got the invite, because that's what they said. I was full of too much emotion. Turns out they were right. I did lead with emotion, conviction, empathy, vision,
fire.
And it burned through every wall they tried to build between me and success. At the summit, I ended my talk with this. You'll be told you're too much, too direct, too intense, too ambitious, too emotional. But the people saying that? They're afraid you'll build something they can't compete with.
So do it anyway.
Build it anyway. Lead anyway. And let them watch you from the rear view, where they belong. The applause was loud. But it wasn't for revenge. It was for release. I didn't destroy them. I just outgrew them. And when karma showed up, she didn't scream.
She signed contracts.
I thought once I surpassed them, I'd feel complete. But success doesn't automatically repair what was broken inside you. It reveals it. That year was our best ever. Revenue doubled, press exploded, a Forbes 30 under 30 email landed in my inbox. I ignored it at first, assuming it was spam. But even as I signed contracts, gave keynotes, and hired 2 new creative leads, there were nights I'd come home, sit on my polished concrete floor, and feel hollow. Not because I regretted anything, but because I was still carrying the voice of the girl who needed to be believed. The one who waited, year after year, for someone to say, "You were right. We just couldn't see it." They never said it. And I finally understood they never would. So I stopped waiting. The call came on a random Tuesday. Private number. I let it go to voicemail. But then I saw the transcript. "Hi, this is Melissa from Vanguard Equity Partners. We're reaching out regarding potential acquisition talks involving Pearl plus Crane." I froze. Vanguard was a mid-tier firm, known for buying out struggling agencies and either flipping or folding them. I played the message again. Then a third time. They weren't offering me anything. They wanted insight. Because I wasn't just their competition now. I was the one winning the clients they couldn't keep. I called Melissa back. She was polite.
Warm.
strategic. They were considering absorbing assets and IP, meaning Pearl Plus Crane was bleeding out. They wanted to know if I had perspective on why so many of their former clients migrated to us. I nearly laughed, but I kept my voice measured. Culture, I said. No innovation. No humility. No talent retention. There was a pause. We were told you used to work there? Briefly, I said. But it taught me everything I needed to know. Another pause. If this acquisition goes through, we'd be interested in bringing you in as a silent advisor, if you're open to it. I told her I'd think about it. I already knew the answer, but I wanted to sit with it, savor it, because there are some victories that don't require fanfare. Just quiet knowing. That weekend, I drove past the old office. It was still there, same glass doors, same fake bamboo plant near the entrance, same fading logo etched into the stone. But the energy was different. There was a "for sublease" sign in the window. And, in the corner of the parking lot, Darren's car. Beat up.
Alone.
For a moment, I watched. He was sitting inside, staring at nothing. No calls. No meetings. Just still. It was a full-circle moment, not of revenge, but of reality. This is what happens when you build on dismissal, ego, and fear. Eventually, the foundation gives out. Later that month, Vanguard finalized the acquisition. I was offered an advisory fee 5 figures for doing nothing more than providing insight and signing off on a document. I donated the entire amount to a scholarship fund for women in business, specifically women who'd been pushed out, talked over, or told they weren't a good fit. The fund's name? The Ember Initiative. Let the ashes become the blueprint. One day, I got a DM from Sarah again. Saw the news. P+C finally folded. Huh? Can't say I'm surprised. You should know your story. It made a lot of us reconsider how we let ourselves be treated. You didn't just win. You changed the whole game. That message stuck with me. Because that's what redemption really is. Not just surpassing the people who doubted you, but becoming undeniable. Weeks later, I found myself on a panel beside 2 women I used to admire from afar, CEOs, founders, powerhouses. We were talking about leadership style, and one of them said, "Real leaders hire who they once were. That's how you break the cycle." It hit me like a freight train, because that's exactly what I had done, without even realizing it. Every person I brought into Ember Theory, they were someone who had once been overlooked, undermined, underestimated. And every one of them was now thriving. Because belief, genuine, fearless belief, changes people. It changes everything. That night, I wrote in my journal, I don't want a seat at their table. I want to build a banquet for the women they never saw coming. I still think about the version of me that stayed too long, that muted herself in meetings, that second-guessed every instinct, that cried in bathroom stalls and edited emails 15 times so she didn't sound emotional. She deserved better. So I built it. Not for revenge. For her. It came on a Tuesday morning, halfway through a meeting with my creative director. A knock. Unscheduled. My assistant poked her head in. "There's someone here asking for you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he said he used to work with you." I raised an eyebrow. Name? Eli Carson. My stomach flickered.
Eli.
He was the senior account lead at Pearl Plus Crane when I was there, charismatic, loud, sharp-suited, always laughing at his own jokes and reminding interns that this business chews people up if they can't keep pace. He never mistreated me, but he never stood up for me either. He was the one who once said after I presented a campaign that got tossed, "Sometimes less passion gets you more buy-in." And I'd swallowed it. Back then, I swallowed everything. I nodded. Send him in. He walked in slower than I remembered. Not defeated. Just different. "Rachel, this place is incredible." "Thank you." He glanced around. Our office wasn't flashy, but it felt like clarity, concrete floors, warm lighting, plants in every corner, whiteboards covered in strategy, not slogans. "I won't take up your time," he said, hands clasped. "I just wanted to see it. In person. What you built." I said nothing. Let the silence stretch. He took a breath. I left Pearl Plus Crane 8 months before it folded. I saw it coming. Then why are you here now? His mouth tightened. Because I think I owe you something. My jaw tightened, but I stayed still. I wasn't the worst one there. But I wasn't brave either. I let the culture tell me you were too much, too loud, too pointed, too emotional. You were the sharpest one in the room, and we dulled you. I tilted my head. And now I tell my team that intensity is clarity. That emotion is how customers decide to buy. That the best strategist I ever saw was a 24-year-old woman we ignored. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. And that made it easier to listen. You don't owe me anything, I said finally. I know. But I wanted to tell you anyway. You were right. There it was. Not an apology, exactly. But the thing I thought I'd never hear. I nodded. Nothing more. He took the cue and left. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to follow that moment with reflection or second-guessing. I felt something new. Closure. That afternoon, I told my team about the visit. They listened quietly. No one laughed. No one mocked it. My creative director just said, "Sometimes the apology comes as recognition." That week, I wrote our next newsletter. Asterisk, you won't always get the apology you deserve. But sometimes, the world gives you something better. The proof that you were never the problem. You were just the beginning. Asterisk. It became our most shared piece yet. A month later, a woman applied for an internship. Her cover letter opened with, "I used to think I had to shrink myself to be allowed in. But now I want to learn from people who expanded instead." Her name was Sophie. I recognized that version of her. Hungry, unsure, careful. So, I hired her. Not to prove a point, but because people like us, we don't just break the cycle. We become the ones we needed. Sophie was quiet her first week. Not timid, just observant, like she was trying to unlearn everything she'd been taught about how to behave at work. She apologized 3 times for speaking up in meetings, once for asking a question, and once just for having an idea that contradicted mine. I pulled her aside after our Friday check-in. You don't have to apologize for thinking. You're not here to be polite. You're here to grow. She nodded, then whispered, I didn't know that was allowed. That sentence stayed with me all weekend. I started to realize Ember Theory wasn't just a company. It was a classroom, a mirror, a repair shop, and in some cases, a launch pad for women like Sophie who had been made to believe they had to audition for basic respect. We didn't hire perfect. We hired potential. And by believing in it early, we saw returns the old agencies never could, not just in revenue, but in culture, in ideas, in energy that couldn't be faked. We began something new that quarter, the Ember Residency, a paid 6-month mentorship for women who had been laid off, overlooked, or told they weren't a culture fit. The application didn't ask for resumes.
It asked,
what broke your confidence? What do you know you're good at, but no one ever gave you the chance to prove? What kind of leader do you want to become? We expected 50 responses. We got over 1,000. One application stood out. Asterisk, my last job made me sit through meetings where I wasn't allowed to speak. I had to pass my ideas through a male coworker to be heard. I stayed 2 years before realizing I wasn't underqualified. I was underestimated. Asterisk. I'm done whispering. I just need a place where I don't have to start every sentence with, sorry, but... Asterisk. We accepted her immediately. She's now our operations manager. By winter, Ember Theory wasn't just a company with clients, it was a movement. Our inbox was filled with stories. Your blog made me quit my toxic job and start my business. Your story was the reason I finally asked for a raise. I thought I was alone. Then I found your site.
We didn't need a billboard.
Our reputation spread through screens, whispers, DMs, and Slack channels of women finally deciding they were enough. And I realized that was the real redemption. Not just building what they said I couldn't, but giving it away. One evening, I stood by the office window as the sun set. Sophie was laughing in the next room with our design lead. They were printing concepts for a campaign I'd barely touched, and it was better for it. I used to think control was the win. Now I knew legacy is letting go and watching others rise. I pulled out my phone and opened a voice note app. Recorded something I'd send to the team in our Monday memo. When I was 24, someone told me I didn't have what it takes to lead. They were wrong. But it wasn't just about proving them wrong, it was about proving myself right. And now I see that leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about creating a room where others can finally hear themselves. A year after the acquisition, I received a plain email. Subject: Former Pearl Plus Crane employees seeking placement. It was from Vanguard, the firm that bought the remnants of the agency where I started. They were quietly trying to rehome the last of the staff they hadn't let go, the ones clinging to cubicles while the building emptied around them. Among the names?
Darren. Eli.
Two other creative leads who once laughed when I brought in emotion as part of a pitch strategy. Now they were resume attachments, PDFs with bullet points, scrubbed clean of ego, polished with the desperation of people realizing the market had moved on, and they hadn't. I stared at Darren's resume longer than I expected to. It listed things like team leadership, brand development, and mentorship. The kind of safe corporate phrasing that said everything and nothing. There was no mention of me. No Ember theory. No acknowledgement that the person they dismissed had now outpaced them, outranked them, and outlasted them. Just a LinkedIn profile full of past tense prestige. My HR lead asked how I wanted to respond. Do you want us to ignore it or? I took a deep breath. Invite them to apply like anyone else. But no special treatment. Even Darren? Especially Darren. I didn't want to gloat. I wanted to be unshakable. Because karma doesn't need revenge. It needs a record. None of them applied. And that was fine. Because they weren't here for growth. They were here for salvage. Ember wasn't a salvage yard.
It was a launch pad.
Later that month, we held our first Ember Residency Showcase, an open house where our ments shared the work they'd done, the progress they'd made, and the vision they had for their next step. Sophie stood in front of the projector, voice clear and strong, and pitched a campaign idea that stunned even our most senior strategist. I sat in the back, didn't speak, didn't lead, just watched, because sometimes the best power move is silence. Afterward, Sophie walked over. You okay? I nodded, just taking it all in. This is what I used to dream of. She smiled. You made it happen. I corrected her gently. We made it happen. And I meant it. One night, I finally opened the letter I had written to myself years ago, the one I tucked away after I quit my job and started Ember Theory.
It said,
if no one lets you lead, build something worth following. If they ignore you, speak anyway. If they dismiss you, let them, and keep rising. You are not too much. You are exactly enough.
Keep going.
They will watch you win. I folded it again and placed it in a frame on my desk. Next to it, a quote by Maya Angelou. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. A few weeks later, I got a message through our website from a new college grad.
Hi.
I don't know how to say this, but your story saved me. I was about to quit everything. I thought maybe the problem was me. Maybe I just wasn't cut out for the world I wanted. Then I found your site, and your videos, and your team. And I realized I don't have to be small to succeed. I just have to be me. Thank you for being what they wouldn't let you be. Now I think I can be that too. I cried when I read it. Not out of pain, but release. Because that's what full circle really is. Not the downfall of those who doubted you, but the rise of those who needed to watch you overcome. Pearl Plus Crane is gone now. No sign on the building. No trace on the website. No echo of the boardroom where they told me I was too emotional. But Ember Theory?
Still here. Growing.
Hiring. Giving chances to people who've been told no too many times. And every single day, I walk through these glass doors, not with a chip on my shoulder, but with a purpose in my step. Because the girl they underestimated? She didn't just succeed. She built something they could never touch.